I'll, just start by saying that we are celebrating the 6th birthday of Stride Ventures. And over the last 6 years, we've launched 4 funds in India, one in GCC and one in UK. And across all these funds, the most active sector for our deployment has been consumer. So consumer is very close to our hearts, and 40% of all disbursements we have done in these 6 years has been in consumer across fashion and lifestyle, beauty and personal care, home improvement, apparel, footwear, etc. So I'm delighted that I am moderating this consumer panel. So while all of you have been introduced, but I think it'll be great to hear from your journeys. Varun, you are the OG of beauty and personal care brands in India and the consumer startup ecosystem in itself in India. And you've mastered the build, the buy, the listing, everything so well under various brands, Mama Earth, Dama Company, Aqualogica, Dr. Shade, so many. So how has the journey been? If you can just give a quick brief, I'm sure the audience would love to hear your journey. How fulfilling has it been?
Well, I think we have 30 minutes for the panel, right? I mean, this could be a podcast. No, I mean, of course, the journey has been amazing. We, 8 years ago when we started this, we're still yet to turn 9, by the way, right? We're also turned 8 in December last year. We never imagined the journey to shape like that. I think when we started, it was more with the intent of making a difference to even a few parents through Mama Earth and the baby products that we were launching. I think if there's one thing which has been constant in this journey, it's been listening. We listen to our consumers, we listen to them intently, and we heard and took decisions, right, which shaped the directions and dimensions of this company. We listened to our investors as well. 50%. Some of it we had to, we chose to follow. Some of it we chose to not follow as well. But we listened. So I think that's how the journey got shaped. From a very young brand to a large brand, which became a success and fastest 2,000 crore brand in the Indian FMCG ecosystem, which gave us the confidence that we could. This is not just a strategy, but more of a capability and muscle that we have built, which we can utilize to build more brands, because our consumers not just operate in one dimension, but they choose different categories based on different kind of mindsets, and hence we want to take the maximum share of their wallet, right? And that's how the journey of House of Brands started, and first organically, and then you mentioned inorganically as well, right? And we've used consumer listening and organizational building and data to sort of come to where we are today.
Great. And I think all your brands have a different narrative and their own identity, which is so difficult if it's the same team executing these different brands.
It is, it's not that difficult. Like I said, I mean, if you're clear about how your consumer thinks, and your ability to think like that sort of becomes easier. So, for example, we clearly understood that the consumer is buying this whole beauty and personal care space on 3 different dimensions, right? They buy it across the dimension of propositions, right, which is where a natural proposition or a dermatology proposition or Ayurveda proposition comes, right? We also understood that they buy finally categories, right? So they want a face wash or they want a shampoo, etc., right? Which is the second dimension. And third dimension is price, right? That they have a certain price point in mind, and that's how they buy. And that's basically the logic that we use to come up with what brand mixes should we present to them, right? Which is a combination of these 3 dimensions. Right? It can be a active-based skincare brand priced at XYZ, right? When you map all of these opportunities out, right, you're able to see where the consumer is asking for in terms of their needs and where there is gap, right? And you can sort of fulfill it with a new brand mix. And we enjoy creation, so actually that process is something that we love doing.
Abhishek, I think MyGate has turned 10 or is turning 10 this year. Next year will be 10. Okay, so 8 and 10. So Abhishek, for you, you've built the first and most trusted community living app, which solves so much for everyday life in residential communities, residential societies. How has that journey evolved? And I'm sure here in the audience, almost everybody has the MyGate application installed on their
Can I
phones.
ask the audience a question?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm pretty sure all Gurgaon crowd has it.
Please tell me, make me feel good. How many of you are in gated society? Okay, how many of you use MyGate? Market खत्म नहीं हो गया वो problem हो जाता है मेरे को. we have a good market. We still are acquiring communities. I think the journey started, and many times founders say they see the problem themselves, right? As a migrant in Bangalore, right? My first preference was to rent a place in a gated community. When my kids were born, I decided कि चलो gated community में ही first apartment लेंगे. Then you realize कि it's so fundamental once you sort of introspect, right? The need for safety and security for yourself and your family. Aspiration of access to not just convenience, but amenities like basic things like your kids can, without fear, cycle, play with their friends, and you can leave the door open, and their friends can come in, and go out. Access to house help, at large numbers. We have choices. कोई नहीं आई भाई तो किसी और को बुला लिए. Just the sense of belonging as well, because as urbanization is happening, as people are moving, we realize that the government and the public infra is lagging and lacking. तो उसका opportunity कौन ले रहा है? Real estate developers. If you see around all of ourselves in the last 20 years, all cities have expanded by real estate projects coming first and infra following later. And as these communities have became bigger and bigger, we realize the need that this is also the top India का top 10%. यहीं पर सबको proposition जाएगा कि you stay at your home, will deliver goods and services to your doorstep. Gate will become a friction point. The fundamental premise of security is that unauthorized person should come, deliver their goods and services and leave, but it should also be authorized. So that's some of the tailwinds and macro things that we saw, and we felt there is a gap, and that's how the idea came first time. If we connect the external world to the security guard and the gate of the community to the residents inside, and make that experience seamless, it will be hopefully a great product that most of the households in Indian gated communities will use. And I think things are shaping up that way so far.
Great. So I think Deep will join in another 5 to 10 minutes. He's running a little late. So Varun, Hunasa has had very, I'd say, excellent brand presence across different channels. Quick commerce has really picked up in the last, say, 3 to 4 years since COVID. And of course, it provides for reach, because in this era of instant gratification and convenience, when the consumer wants it now, you have to be where the consumer is. So how do you strike a balance when it comes to quick commerce? Because they charge hefty margins to list on their platforms, but they're giving that reach. How strong is that reach in your consumer base, and how do you manage that as a contributor to your channel mix?
So I think firstly, we define ourselves as a brand building company, and we go by the principle that as a brand building company, your brand needs to be available at the distribution points that the consumer wants to buy you at. And you have to reduce friction in the process of them buying your brand, and hence wherever they want to buy that category, you have to be present. And which is why for us this if in or conundrum is not sort of there, right? It's a and. You need to make all channels work for your brand, and of course in the journey at the right points of time, because if the consumer is not even aware of your brand, then for them, even if you're present on a platform, it doesn't really matter. But as the journey sort of proceeds and they become more aware of you, and then whichever platform is the preferred platform for them to buy, you need to be present, right? Now that could be a quick commerce platform, or an marketplace platform, or a GT or a MT. And margins is a problem that you need to solve for yourself. I mean, QC will ask you higher margin because your brand is weak. So better strengthen it. Right? Create searches on their platform so that they come to you, right? And they want your brand to be present on the platform. And the conversation will be then a more balanced conversation, where you're also bringing your brand strength to the table and they're bringing their platform strength to the table. It's a conversation of two equals. Whenever the conversation will be skewed towards one side, right, it'll always become a slightly more bleeding conversation. Right? Which also, if you want to have, right, structure it in a manner, like for example, rather than signing on higher margins, right, sign on higher investments. At least that's something which you can change over time. Right? Whatever margins you sign on, you can't. Right? So, but you will have to balance it. So at least in our case, we had the benefit that by the time QC came, we already had strong brands, right? And hence we've not had this challenge. It's a platform where to compete, you have to sort of invest in marketing and do on-platform investments, right? But I don't think from an economics perspective, right, it's worse off compared to a modern trade or any of the other sort of large captive sort of places which are B2B in nature. And I don't think it's there is major difference there.
Got it. I think it's also about the category, because if you have higher margins, you can afford that much channel contribution. Otherwise, it becomes difficult and you have to choose which channel you want to operate in.
Right, I mean, your comparison is always with the category averages, right? So if a category naturally has a lower margin, right, then the platform will not have expectations of a like beauty category margin from a home care play, for example. Right? And hence, within your category, right, then the margin conversation is dependent upon your brand strength. Right? If your brand is strong and the platform needs you, right, you will, of course, be able to negotiate better.
Thanks, Varun. So I'll quickly introduce Deep. Deep is the founder of one of the most loved femtech brands, and he's also one of the most beloved founders, known for his execution, grit, and muscle. So welcome, Deep. We just started, and we were just having the first round of conversation. Maybe we just went around by knowing the journeys people have had in building their own brands. So you built a great brand. You sold it, and now you are at the helm of it again to empower it to new heights. So how has your journey been in building Sirona?
No, thank you so much for having me. Hi guys, sorry for the delay. The journey, of course, is always. It's been a pleasure to build this brand, especially because I've seen these issues plague at least my loved ones so deeply. So when you look at dirty toilets, when you look at lack of menstrual hygiene solutions, there are no solutions for period pain, for rashes that women get in intimate areas. There's nothing for, when you look at safety when women are stepping out. So these are some of the solutions that we built. And I think I was just honored to be picked for this category. Now, happy to be building it again. So just good to be back.
So we were just talking about the channel mix for beauty and personal care, and we spoke about quick commerce. So another question probably for both Varun and you is general trade. Because there are so many consumer companies in the BPC segment who find it difficult to know when is the right time to enter GT once you are a well-known brand, or you need to be in GT to become a well-known brand. And there's so many complexities about cash and carry and beauty associates and trade discounts and all of that. How have you guys navigated it? And Varun, for you, was it helpful that you were one of the first movers in terms of digital first consumer brands? Because you guys have had, at least, the public perception is that Honasa has done a very good job, especially Mamaearth has done a great job at offline retail compared to consumer brands who followed.
Thank you. I mean, if that's the perception. But honestly, it's an ongoing process. I mean, day one also was an ongoing process of placing your products in the right kind of stores, where some benchmark categories and price points and the type of consumer who's buying you, right? For example, in our case, we used our D2C data extensively. Right? If you wanted to go into Delhi, like which pin codes should we be going to? And within that, of course, if this is the kind of consumer who's buying us, right? I mean, where do they shop, right? With some hunch, sort of, taking that forward. Right now, if we're expanding Dermaco, similar sort of approach that we've taken, but that's just a first step of the process, right? You then find a way to place yourself, right? Make it attractive enough for the retailer, right? That they're interested in replacing their current brand with you, right? Because they will get benefited by that, right? And they also over time need to see your velocity story, right? If you don't sell out, right, then you don't sort of make money in GT. So honestly, and you have to keep watching, right, after putting in those kind of stores, right, how is the offtake, and if you're moving out, right, then you're in the right direction, right? You can find more lookalikes of that kind of stores and expand, right? But if you're not moving out, you stay put, right? You figure out, you keep waiting, right? That the brand will catch traction over time, and you keep sort of yourself to a sustained I mean, for example, even Dermaco, now it's more than 500 crores in scale, right? But only 7% of that comes from offline, right? GT plus MT, in fact, right? And this journey for offline is almost 2 years old, right? So it's not like we've just gone in offline for Dermaco, right? And the first time we put it in 100 stores was almost 2 years back, right? And from there, we kept learning, we kept sort of, it in limited to about 500 stores till 1.5 years, and then we started seeing traction, and like then the scale up journey was very quick, right, from 500 stores to 20,000 in 6 months, right? Because the brand sort of was in, so you have to, finally the brand needs to gain traction, because the environment is such that you cannot drive discovery within the environment, right? It's a fairly complex and cluttered environment, right? You're competing with 5,000 SKUs, right? The consumer has to come and ask for your product, only then it'll move, right? Especially in competitive categories like ours. If you're in a category where there is no competition, of course, then that's a different piece. But if you're in a competitive category, right, you have to look for signals that your brand is moving, and then
It is more about brand pull, and every brand has their own journey they have to figure out through some
absolutely.
online data, etc.
Yeah.
Bringing you in, Deep, how difficult is it to plan for inventory, because you have a certain shelf life and you can't overstock, otherwise you risk writing it off in future. You can't understock because then it's lost revenue. Which SKU to stock, how much to stock, how, is there any math behind it?
Well, see, I think for me,
Or even for
offline,
online, but I think online still you don't have that procurement lead
Yeah.
time, all of that is different compared to offline.
so I think I agree with what Varun said. If you're planning for offline, it's very important to realize that when we're selling online, it's a push channel, and offline is purely pull. So unless you have demand coming from the stores, it's the easiest thing to place the stock. The difficult part is to get it to move from there. So online predictability is still very easy because your panels give you offtake data. In terms of offline, the way we planned it, before our exit and now buying it back was, we started with small cities and kept a tab on each and every store where product was available, and basis that we would plan to our inventory. In our case, most of the products didn't have expiry as an issue, but still, it's a very I mean, you can't go too wrong with offline. You get it wrong once, the shopkeeper is not going to keep your product again. The key here is to ensure that you have the site on the last store, each and every store on a daily basis, to look at how much are you selling, and plan basis that.
So a lot of data analytics insights that you have to keep doing pin code level to
And hence, it's
decide
important to
those
start
things.
small.
मतलब ऐसी कोई बिग डेटा टाइप नहीं है, मशीन लर्निंग नहीं है, like एक एक्सेल शीट में लोग डेटा स्टोर करते हैं, 100 दुकान का डेटा है, 500 दुकान का डेटा है, but like you have to keep an eye because this data is not automated, right? In fact, all of this is manual data, and offline is one channel where you genuinely cannot trust the data that you see, right? Based on data, you can create an hypothesis, but market working is what gives you real picture, right? You can create a hypothesis. Okay, I'm moving very fast in these 10 outlets. Go to the market, right? Check those 10 outlets. Stand for an hour, right? See it's actually moving. Talk to the retailer. Look at the POS, right? Then you can be confident that your hypothesis was right, because this our learning at least has been that this is a channel where you will only at best be able to get secondary data, and the reliability of data can only be sort of ascertained fully if it matches what you see physically.
Got it. Coming to you, Abhishek, your app has so much data flowing in, right? About visitor logs, about your vehicle details, about who's coming in, when are they coming in, all of that. So, how do you manage privacy, and how do you kind of strike a balance between offering personalized services basis the data that you get and actually respecting the privacy of your consumers?
So this question actually has nothing to do with either manage or balance. It's not a work-life balance type situation. It's not a gray area. For us, it's a fairly black and white. Data privacy, data confidentiality, client confidentiality, sanctity of the data, data protection, how we ensure encryption, masking, who's seeing it. I think these are sacrosanct for us from day one. So it's fairly black and white, right? We are very clear about this approach from day one. Incidentally, I think our banking experience and other founders' military experience have ingrained this in us before even we started MyGate. And when we went to the first RWA member, these are the first questions they had asked 9 years back. What is going to happen to my data? And they still ask us today. But having said that, still 4.5 million homes are using MyGate on a daily basis. I think this has been only possible that because this particular point we have been pretty black and white and clear about. And back in 2019, when golden standard of data privacy, which is GDPR, while it was not applicable in India, we made ourselves ready for that. Now we have DPDP Act. We are ready for that. Obviously, all the necessary certifications and third-party evaluations and certification, VAPT testing, having an ethical hacker on our payroll. All of this ensures that what we say is what we practice. And that trust over 9 years, the same way now you use, I would like to say that probably all your most, secrets that you don't want to know, why WhatsApp is the place to go, right? Well, all your secrets are there. The people are comfortable using Facebook, Insta, WhatsApp, even work Gmail. And people are sharing confidential information in their workplace, Microsoft and Gmail. So why not MyGate? Just because we're an Indian company, we can have the same trust built in. I think very proud to say that has over time served us well. And a lot of you who are using MyGate, I don't think you are wondering कि यार मेरा data को क्या होगा. And I don't think we have ever misused the data. So without consent, कुछ नहीं होता है.
No, kudos actually to you, because it is a very trusted, app that people.
Thank you.
Yeah, people use. When did you realize, Abhishek, that you've reached product market fit, and how do I introduce monetization channels, and who do I charge? Do I charge the society? Do I charge the end consumer?
I think one of the stories that we have is to ensure that we build the right product. Many founders, we shadowed the guards for several weeks, figuring out what they do on ground from 5 a.m. in the morning to 10 p.m. in the night, which is the typical period. उस समय I think we बहुत fairly realize हो गया कि pain point is massive, because right from 6 a.m. one big insight was 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and I'll ask this question to the audience. If your house help, cook or maid or driver is 10 minutes delay, what is your natural next step? क्या करते हो आप? Everybody, क्या करते हो? Your house help is late by 5-10 minutes, half an hour. What is the first, क्या reaction होता है? What we observed was hundreds of calls used to go to the guards. चेक करो रजिस्टर में आई है कि नहीं आई है. नहीं आने वाली, 1 घंटा हो गया, किसी और को भेजो. And these hundreds of calls, we said if you can just have a simple app में वो जब check in करेगी सोसाइटी में घुसेगी, आपके ऐप में आ जाएगा. And that's how households start their day. आ गई मेरी house help आ गई and whatever, right? So this particular use case was, people loved it when the societies rolled out our product. पहले तो उन्होंने सोचा था कि SaaS का चार्ज नहीं करेंगे, क्योंकि इंडिया में ऐसे भी SaaS का बनना मुश्किल होता है. बट रेसिडेंट RW ने बोला अच्छा कितना चार्ज करोगे, तो मेरा फाउंडर देखे यार कितना करना है, तो मैंने बोला अच्छा करते हैं चार्ज फिर. Because the idea was to have more of a VC fueled growth for distribution engagement and start the monetization a couple of years down the line, which actually eventually we had to do. We charged, but then we made our product free, and then there came a time कि अब ये runway 12 महीने का है, अब क्या करें. VC ने बोला syllabus change हो गया है, अभी ये माओ डाओ क्या है मुझे नहीं पता, ये EBITDA दिखाओ. मेरा EBITDA आपने कभी पूछा नहीं 5 साल से. So all that happened and we said यार ये 12-14 मंथ का रनवे बचा है, वी हैव टू रियली फोकस एंड जो एक्सेल पीपीटी में बोला था करते हैं अब अभी लेट हो रहेगा नहीं तो सो वी डिड दैट लकीली व्हाट हैपेंड वाज इन द कोविड लॉट्स ऑफ ब्रांड्स केम टू अस दे सेड कैन वी रीच आउट टू योर ऑडियंस and that truly became our very nice monetization and today I'm proud to say that MyGate is now part of annual business plan of lots of brands across the country. We do interestingly societies in itself are self segmented socio demographic hyper local profiling in a way, right? I don't have to even go household level. अब जो DLF कमिलिया में रह रहा है मुझे पता है उसका इनकम क्या होगा, राइट? तो सॉरी आई डोंट नो इफ यू लिव ऑन, सुना है ऐसा राइट? इफ समबडी इज स्टेइंग इन ग्रेटर नोएडा आई नो कि वो वहाँ पर मुझे मे बी थोड़ा सा बायस है, मुझे वहाँ पर लैंड रोवर का ऐड नहीं दिखाना है हो सकता है आप खरीद ले बट DLF कमिलिया में दिखाएंगे ना. तो आई थिंक दैट इज हाउ द ब्रांड्स आर लविंग अस. वी आर गिविंग देम बोथ. तनिष्क को खोलना है ग्रेटर नोएडा में नया स्टोर, बोलेगा 100 सोसाइटी में in that new pin code I want to do targeted advertising. So monetization has come from there. SaaS monetization is still weak, but we've been able to charge the communities now. Now we are building a smart device platform where we feel that the gate of the community to everything inside the community, to we're now trying to enter the home through the door. So we've launched some products there.
Got it. Another question for both Deep and Varun. There are just, within the Gen Z and Gen Alpha community, generation, they are so open to experimentation and the switching cost is really low. I mean, they're just open to trying out new things. How important it is to stay relevant, and, it's obviously very difficult also to stay relevant. Do you keep launching new products or you make it a truly pull brand? As you said, in offline, it has to be a pull brand. But how do you make it a truly pull brand? What kind of marketing really exists and works in this day and age? Do like TV commercials, ATL branding still work? Is it influencer marketing? Is it community building? Which of these strategies really make you relevant for today's generation?
Well, of course, it's staying relevant is the most important thing I think all D2C founders focus on. And आपने जो OTP और MyGate approval में हमारी जवानी खराब करी है.
अब जवानी में आप क्या कर रहे थे मुझे क्या पता सर किसको OTP दे रहे थे मुझे नहीं पता सर.
So, sir, I think with this Gen Zs, all that we do is if they are coming back with feedback, I think if you can make them feel heard, they are your customers for life. And that is one area where we over-index on because our products are such which solve a problem, right? So if you've used P-Buddy and it has helped you in a dirty toilet situation, and if we don't mar that experience for you, you are an ambassador. So we keep creating content which helps you understand where else can you use our products. Same for our period paint patches, same for stain removers and pepper sprays.
So I think my view is as generations change, I don't think the needs change as much. Certain core needs would remain very sort of common, right? I mean, need for being clean, need for taking care of your skin, need for looking good, need for feminine hygiene, need for security, right? These are underlying needs and they don't change. What changes is context, right? How you like to perceive communication or content changes, right? Where you buy and how you buy in terms of your shopping cycle changes, right? How you expect brands to come across to you changes, right? And hence I don't think it's about just launching new products and serving that, right? It's firstly about finding the right context-based content and communication that you can present your brand with, which makes it relevant to the consumer. It is then about if your product also needs to follow that journey. And I mean, 10 years ago, the SPF conversation was just SPF 50. Right? Today, the conversation, 3 years ago, the conversation became about PA, right? And the fact that SPF is only a UVB product, or UVA is what PA sort of stands for, and hence that's also something that you want to look. Right? Then it became a conversation about textures. Right? The lighter it is, the better it is. Right? Now, for example, something that we're launching as we speak is anti-pollution factor in sunscreens, right? That, this is a technology which will not only protect you from sun but also from pollution, right? Because we know contextually our consumer cares for that, right? So what the consumer cares for, how do you keep upgrading your product, right, to represent that, right? And how do you communicate in the language that they most listen to, in the platforms that they most follow, right? And those platforms might keep changing. 3 साल पहले कुछ था, आज Instagram Reels है, like what if TikTok gets launched in India tomorrow? It'll be that. So, like, you can't be married to a platform. You get married to the consumer, right? And go wherever they go.
Abhishek, coming to you, is MyGate a more metro tier 1 phenomenon? How do you, make sure that you go beyond into, say, tier 1, tier 2 cities? Have you thought about how it will evolve?
Yesterday when I got your brief of what questions you will ask, उसमें ये था कि are you thinking about the next 500 million people? मैं सोचा ये क्वेश्चन मुझसे पूछ रही है, आई थिंक शी इज ओवर एस्टिमेटिंग माई IQ एंड विजडम बोथ. मुझे नहीं पता 500 मिलियन का क्या होगा. वी आर टुडे एट 4.5 मिलियन हाउस होल्ड्स. नेक्स्ट गोल इज 10 मिलियन. नेक्स्ट गोल इज 15 मिलियन. 500 मिलियन का सॉल्व करने का मेरा औकात नहीं है, न नॉलेज है. तो आई थिंक विल स्टे स्टेडी फॉर नेक्स्ट फ्यू ईयर्स, फोकसिंग ऑन गेटेड कम्युनिटीज. वही समझ में आता है, वही करेंगे.
वही काफी बड़ा है, एंड आपका मार्केट शेयर सबसे ज्यादा है. So similar question to both of you also. I keep clubbing because it's, as a category, it's very similar. How do you solve for the demographic divide? Like the uses of a consumer in a metro city can be different. And even the context, the relatable content can be different for a metro city versus what will click with a tier 1, tier 2 city. So how do you design products which are pan-India in nature? North mein kuch chalta hai, south mein kuch chalta hai.
We don't believe so. Right? Especially the India that we are serving, right? I mean, of course, I had a similar sort of response to that 500 million, right? Because we don't want to go beyond 100 million, right? I mean, we're a middle class and above company. That's the TG that we want to target, right? There is no company which has been targeting that TG, right? And that TG needs and deserves special attention, right? Because they're the ones who are feeling, and for all the right reasons, that they're moving up in life, right? And they're not being served with brands and propositions which make them feel like they have moved up in life. So that's the journey that we're on. So that cohort, in our view, Merit mein ho ya Gurgaon mein, that cohort is not very different. Because of social media, their content consumption is also very similar. Because of OTT, again, their content consumption is very similar. And hence, we don't feel the need to design products differentially for them. Communications also, the only thing where we feel the need for differentiation is language. I should not differentiate for, like, because you like to receive content in Hindi versus someone else likes to receive content in Tamil. That's the brand's job, right? To be able to talk to you in the language that you prefer. Right? But outside of that, at least our read is that, the needs and the aspirations are fairly similar. Right? They're not too divided by tiers.
What do you think?
Similar. I think, we are brands trying to solve problems, and consumer could be anywhere, and social media has been a great leveler. So if let's say if you're somebody who's very conscious of hygiene, or in, let's say, in the case of pregnancy, for instance, if you're in your last trimester, you could be in anywhere in India. If you know that a product like Peabody can help you stand in pee and hence avoid that infection that you might pick, be anywhere in the country. So yes, we do use vernacular content to talk to you in your language, but it's not city-wise divide. It's more psychographics. We talk to mindset. Anybody who's looking for a solution, as long as we reach out to them, we've done our job. So
one question to you, Arun. Now there are a lot of brands that are coming up to address teen beauty, right? So teen makeup products and skincare products. Do you think India is ready for a segment like that? Because there's so much discretion that parents exercise over their children, right? And is it that big a segment?
Honestly, I have, at least from our own journey, I have learned to have a healthy sort of, suspicion, right? And not be either overly pessimistic or optimistic about anything, right? I mean, if it's not a market today, it can become a market tomorrow. And if it's not been made anywhere in the world, an amazing entrepreneur can make it in India. And hence, possibilities exist. I can talk about present and trend lines. I can tell you that presently, while this cohort is using skincare and their adoption in skincare and beauty is actually growing very fast, but their aspiration and who they look up to is not a teen. They also look up to a young adult. And hence, they're most inspired by brands which are sort of, targeting and are popular amongst young adults. The second challenge that I see is the ability to reach this TG. Right? Most brands start with digital and media as the first sort of place where they can. Right? And currently, the largest digital mediums, right, do not allow you to target this TG. You cannot target a 13 to 18 TG, right, either on Meta or on YT. Right? And hence it's hard, right, to actually reach this TG with your communication. Right? So it's going to hence be a slow, non-digital, right, some other sort of phenomena kind of a build journey. Right? But is it possible? Absolutely.
Great. Any closing remarks from all three of you? We just have around 2 minutes. About the Indian consumer and what are you excited about?
Very excited about Indian consumer, right? Very worried about AI, right? But in the middle of that is where we all land as we speak. Let's see how things shape over the 3 years.
Abhishek?
Yeah, I think we clearly see a lot of tailwinds and macro factors supporting our business. We call it the Great Indian Gated Community will continue to be where people will aspire to stay, live as cities are expanding. So we'll continue to be relevant for next decade and the decade after, and we are trying to build.
Deep.
No, enough said. I think just please follow our pages, guys.
Well said. Okay, thank you so much. We finished in time. Thanks a lot for
Thank you.
your time today. Thank you for being a wonderful audience.